Right then, welcome back to How to Fix Manchester United, a series where I'm trying to do a very in-depth look at all of the different problems that might affect Manchester United and how we can get back to dominating. This is part 4. This technically the second part of part 4. Should we just call it episode 5? I think at this point. In the last episode, we looked at the youth development program. We looked at the pathway and how to develop a pathway and all of the different other little things that we need to do to develop well-rounded players. And we also looked at overhauling the recruitment strategy and going with a lot more science and data-led kind of things. In this episode, I'm going to be starting looking at the loan strategy and our global club partnerships, and then we'll see how far we get before I run out of time, before we hit the next part. So let's look at this. Call it part 5, I think. I'll redo the last one. But let me know what your thoughts are on this. So let's start with the loan strategy. Now, United had a good record with feeder clubs and partner clubs, and we was creating a little bit of a global network prior to 2005 when the Glazers came in. We had started to develop one with Fluminense. We already had the one with Antwerp, and there was other little ones. I think there was one in Helsinki as well that was doing little bits for us. The Glazers came in, and the same thing they did with the women's team. They just shut all of that down, didn't serve them, and United I've now got to go and revisit something that we'd already started to do 20 years ago. But what we do need is a finishing school. And I think we sort of touched on it in the last episode that the academy has become so much more important. Once players start becoming 150, 200 million and PSR and FFP regulations start to bite, you have to have a pathway of identifying and bringing through those players. Now, not every player at 18 and 19 is going to be ready to play first team football for Manchester United. It's just unrealistic to expect that. So you have to create some sort of a finishing school for talent. Not every player is going to be at 18 physically mature enough or even have the mental and tactical awareness to play first team football. The jump is absolutely massive. So a strategic loan system is going to be critical for bridging that gap. United need to create a structured global loan program that serves as a finishing school, somewhere that just puts the final finesse on, because youth football, where the emphasis is and should be on development, is so much different to the competitive environment where people are playing for contracts and money to feed their family and pay their mortgage. It's absolutely different. So you have to prepare them for that. And you don't want ad hoc, last-minute loans where you send a kid to a club that rings up and asks because they needed a left-back as backup for something. No, you want carefully selected partner clubs in areas of the country and leagues that align with how we play and the specific development requirement of that player. There needs to be philosophically aligned partnerships. We have to have a model, maybe a little bit inspired by what Red Bull have done with their multi-club network, Salzburg, Leipzig, New York, etc. And maybe even others, a little bit like cities. And we've not really seen the full power of cities just yet, but I think in the coming years you will do. Red Bull's logic is quite simple, quite effective. They pick up young talent, they place them at a lower level club within their network, they develop them to a consistent playing style, and then they move them up the ladder as they improve. A player might start at FC Liefering, right, which is Red Bull's feeder in the Austrian second division. They then might move to Red Bull Salzburg. Then if they're top tier, they might move over to RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga. Each step, he's playing the same brand of football. The training environment is going to be very aligned. You know, they're high pressing, they're fast paced, they're all about transitions. And by the time he reaches their flagship club, he's ready to slot right in. United can emulate that without owning multiple clubs, but by forming tight-knit partnerships. Imagine if you formalize alliances with, say, someone in the Belgium pyramid. I mean, maybe a Genk or an Anderlecht are far too big to do that, but you know, why not go back to Antwerp? That worked for us in the past. Maybe there's a team in the Championship that there's a bit of a close alignment with. Some people are going to suggest Salford, you know, potentially, or maybe keep the legends apart from that a little bit. But maybe someone in the Dutch pyramid, somewhere that if you've got a technical player that you want him to develop that side of his game, or you know, you could even look to Portugal or to Scotland. There's so many places where you can go and help a club out in that area without taking away from their identity. Find and identify a club that has got a similar, without necessarily being identical, because you don't necessarily need it to be identical, similar sort of attacking philosophy that's all about intense pressing. Find that partner club, help them out with some coaching, find somewhere that's got someone that wants to have that attacking proactive football, and work on some arrangements where they get the benefit of a young player and we get the benefit of them being delivered back a better first team player next season. Take a lot of work to identify the right kind of place, but that's the one. And I mentioned Genk and even Anderlecht, to be honest with you, because Genk has got an outstanding record of talent development. The likes of Courtois, Kevin De Bruyne, they all came through there, but so did the likes of Carrasco, Benteke, Origi, Trossard, and loads of others. In short, Genk, for the size of the place, is an absolute talent factory. Now, maybe they're a little bit too big for it, but partnering with a club like that could be totally mutually beneficial. We loan them some of our best 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They get a quality player in return from a season. And in return, our boys get experience in a league that is known for developing players in a pressure environment that's not quite Premier League pressure environment. An attacker that tears it up at Genk at 19 could be ready for Premier League football at 20. You saw that pathway with De Bruyne. You've seen it with Courtois. You star at Genk, you're ready for the move to the big leagues. And then rather having talents go permanently elsewhere, you have that development where they come back to United. Similar to the Dutch Eredivisie. It's a great training ground. It's technical, it's open, it's perfect for attacking players to learn. You place a couple of wingers, a PSV or an Alkmaar for a year, they might have 30 senior games and potentially European competition under their belt as well. And I think the important thing here is not to undermine the clubs that you create a partnership with. It's to have a relationship that works for them going forward. I think that's very important. United shouldn't come in there and be like, we're Manchester United and we do what we want and you will bow down to us. No, you find a club that's actually trying to do things the right way. Everyone realises their role in this. Manchester United, unfortunately, are down the food chain from Real Madrid. Real Madrid sit at the top of that food chain. If they want someone, by and large, they go and get them. But everyone should know where their place is within that. United might only be second to Real Madrid. If Manchester United come calling to anyone in England, they generally get who they want, or they did. I feel like it probably still is the same right now, but that might not be the case forever. And this video is proudly sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Ever wish that you could be anywhere in the world with just a click? Well, with Surfshark VPN, you can, digitally at least. Instantly change your virtual location and access content as if you were anywhere else. Whether you want to unlock region-specific shows, browse freely, or stay connected while traveling, Surfshark makes it effortless. And right now they are giving away an exclusive deal. Get an extra 4 months for free on your subscription. Beyond accessing the content you love, Surfshark can keep you secure. It encrypts your data and it hides your IP address, ensuring that your online activity stays private, whether you're shopping, streaming, or just browsing. And one Surfshark account works on unlimited devices, your phone, your laptop, and even your smart TV. There is no need for multiple subscriptions, just one, and you're covered everywhere. Setup is quick and it's easy, and if you ever need assistance, Surfshark's 24/7 customer support is always there to help. Your privacy is too important to ignore. Visit surfshark.com/Howson today and get an extra 4 months for free on your subscription. Do not wait. Lock down your digital life now. Head to surfshark.com/Howson to claim your deal. Cheers to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video, and with their 30-day money-back guarantee, you have got nothing to lose. United should go and have a strategic loan assignment. We draw up a plan with every single loanee. You identify what they're trying to achieve. You don't just send them out on loan because Wolves asked for a left back. You go out there with the intention, and you have multiple different things. You might have a team in the Championship, Preston or something, that you have a relationship with, where you go, we want this player to test and prove his physicality and defensive work rate in an intense league. Championship for you. You might have a player that's got that level of intensity and you go, do you know what? We would like you to maybe learn how to dictate the tempo as a midfielder with a bit of technique. He needs to go to the Dutch league. But you have the options. It's the right tool for the right job always. This player needs to develop this side of his game. He goes to Genk. This player needs to develop this side of his game. He goes to Preston. This player still needs to learn the Manchester United ethos and way. Maybe he goes to a partner club that we've got out in Ecuador. Something like that. Your young South American kid, maybe he needs a longer transitional period before he even moves to Europe. you place him at the little holding pen that you've got in South America somewhere that gets him adjusted to the type of environment that he's going to see at Manchester United, but it removes that shock of capture almost from, being thrown straight in, living in Southwest Manchester, nowhere near where you grew up in Brazil. Some people might benefit from a loan within England to get used to English football. I think the Championship is easily on par with a lot of the leagues around Europe, and it's a phenomenal league, incredibly intense. If you can survive in the Championship as a teenager, I think you're going to have a career. Germany is a fantastic environment for people to develop. Jadon Sancho, okay, it's not worked out since, developed fantastically well at 17. He blossomed. Jude Bellingham went and did the same thing at 17, become a world-class player. The key is finding the right environment. Partner clubs can be chosen for not just their willingness to play the loanees. There's no point in sending them if they're not going to play, but also for the way that they're going to develop them and what that league is going to give them. Establish communication channels with clubs, perhaps even embed some of our academy coaches and analysts with them, help share resources in that sense with them. Maybe give them first refusal on the players coming through your own academy system that you're not going to give extended contracts to. Maybe that's one of the benefits that they get, where they get first dibs on the players that you're not going to give contracts out to, and you give them an early warning so they can get ahead and get prepared for that. You want to monitor those players that are out on loan closely. You want to have a relationship where they can be open and honest with you. Do you know what? He's not turning up for training on time, X, Y, Z. You've got to do that sort of thing. I think the embedded staff idea could be, young coaches from Manchester United go and help learn what's going on over, say, in Belgium for a season. The same way that you're developing your players, go develop your coaches. It'd be an aid to the loanees, and it'd be an aid to the coach himself. And then the multi-club network. Now, I wonder if this is going to be something that comes in. Ineos already have a couple of clubs under their belt as well, with Lausanne and Nice. Is that somewhere that you might see that with United in the future? You might even look at equity stakes and affiliation agreements that strengthen that partnership. City outright bought clubs like Girona and Lommel, but we might not need to go that far initially. You might just start with a couple of sister clubs, where players get shared on loan and knowledge is shared in the back end. It becomes more of a bit of an informal sort of scouting network. You get a reputation. Other clubs see United's loanees, they're high quality, they want to become a partner club as well. Or you get the players, they go out and play at these sister clubs, and they're worth more money than if they're just sat in your academy for a couple of years. Preparing for the Premier League demands a hell of a lot. The ultimate aim is a loanee returns, and he's not just Premier League ready, but he's Manchester United ready, which is a step above just regular Premier League. Premier League intensity, I think, is what trips up a lot of the youngsters, coupled with the physicality. The pace of it, the media scrutiny. The loan strategy has to simulate all aspects of that for the bit that the player needs. Some players might be absolutely fine with the media scrutiny. Some players might be absolutely fine from a toughness and physical resilience point of view. Some players might be absolutely fine with the pace of it, but they won't have all of it, otherwise they've already been playing Premier League level football. But a loan to a club on that B level, maybe even a Europa level club, gives experience that's got both pressure and travel and intensity about it, brings back a 19, 20-year-old player that's battle-hardened and ready to actually be a Manchester United level player. Now, that's all well and good, but I also propose a loan player mentorship program, and I'm going to get involved some ex-United players whose job it is to follow the loanees, to attend their games, and to be an ear for them. Let's imagine Paddy Evra or Rio or Nicky Butt. I guess he's involved in Salford, so maybe not Nicky Butt. But someone that's still involved in the game, be a mentor, and a mentor at a bit of a distance. Someone that you can have a weekly check-in, someone whose number you've got, someone that can help the player through those off-field issues, help them with the cultural adjustments if abroad. And that's why Evra would be great, because he's played all over Europe. Help them from a psychological point of view, but keep them mentally tied to Manchester United. Make them feel part of the club. When I was growing up, Manchester United always used to have one word that sort of rang around it. And I think it was something that Sir Matt Busby implemented, and I think it was something that Fergie strengthened: family. Those players have to feel like they're part of our family, even if they're out on loan at Antwerp or somewhere like that. They're just training elsewhere. Chelsea did it for a while. They had a lone player technical coach that helped manage and sort of look after their army of loanees. Formalize that role. Make that a real role. Have that half a dozen players. Like, I think it's fantastic having the ex-players on the staff anyway. And I know they've just cut loads of salaries and this, that, and the other, but they should absolutely do that. Player development can cost you and save you so much if you do it right or do it wrong. I think they should invest money into it. And then, learn from the likes of Red Bull and Chelsea and Manchester City. The Red Bull example is a powerful sort of unified approach. Salzburg developed a ton of players who then went on to become stars at Leipzig, and those who obviously didn't as well. But players that have been in that system, from Haaland to Mane to Keita to Upamecano to Szoboszlai to Adeyemi, there's a hell of a lot of players come through what is a relatively new system with the RB football group. Players have effectively come through the Red Bull University of Football and they've gone on and make it big. City Football Group have been using Girona and New York FC to give prospects playing time. That's not yielded the same as Red Bull just yet, but I think it probably will at some point. If United are going to dominate again, these are the little areas where you can make big gains, not marginal gains, big gains, because you don't need to go to the transfer market for a 70, 80 million pound player every single season. You've got them already. You've got half a dozen players that are absolutely ripping it up across Europe. Again, it's a 10-year plan. It's not something that you implement this Friday and it's paying you dividends a week on Tuesday. It's going to take you a long time. But consider the next Kobbie Mainoo that comes through. Under the new plan, at 18, he's too good for the under-18s. He's doing fantastic in the 23s, but it's not really challenging him enough. And the Premier League would be a step too far. How do you improve his tactical positioning? How do you improve his ability to have composure on the ball? How do you improve his ability to dictate tempo? Because that's the sort of thing I think Kobbie Mainoo needs to develop in his game. Maybe with our club partnership, he goes to Feyenoord at 18. Plays 25, 30 games, gets involved in a title race, Champions League nights. He returns at 19, ready to go. Now, maybe Mainoo's not the perfect example because he played a lot, but did he play a lot through injuries or did he play because he was ready? Was it a combination of both? Maybe the next season, maybe it's not him, maybe Charlie Savage. Obviously, he ended up going lower down the leagues. Maybe you loan him within the Premier League. Maybe you find a club lower, no, I was going to say lower down, but we are lower down at the moment. And you find a team that's playing a similar style and you develop them. United have to have a formalised plan for development. I can't believe with the cost of transfers and the squeeze that puts on a club, if you invest properly into the development of your own players, you really save yourself a lot of money. Imagine that you can just develop 3, 4, 5 players. That's $250 million saved, which is insane. And the club partnerships can go beyond loans as well. Partnerships can extend to shared scouting, coach education, and even youth tournaments to deliver some competitiveness at a lower level. Coaches can go visit different academies. They can see their methods. They can learn things. You got to have that constant growth mindset of always looking for an edge, always staying at the front of anything that development. The loan and partnership strategy has to ensure that the work that you do at the academy doesn't go to waste. And that's, again, not just the players. You have to develop your coaches. Maybe you introduce some sort of a rite of passage of loan spells. You need to go out on loan before you're ready to actually make it in the first team. Make it about creating the last step of a talent pipeline. In 5 years, United squad could feature tons of players who came through the academy, did that season in the FA Youth Cup, because I think that's a good rite of passage for everyone to have, went and did one season out on loan somewhere, proved themselves and came back to the club as a man. That's a proper pathway, in my opinion. I don't think, outside of the occasional phenom, 18-year-olds are not ready to play Premier League football, but they are ready to go and experience men's football, and they should. I think that's how you put the icing on the cake of an academy player, is getting them ready to play men's football. Now, when United in the mid-2000s was bringing through the likes of Danny Simpson and Gerard Piqué and players of that sort of ilk, It wasn't because they were playing under 23s football. That was a real mistake, I think, by the Premier League by introducing 23s football and upping it from 21s. But actually, the mistake started before that when they removed reserve team football. When people used to play for Warren Joyce in Manchester United reserves, they were getting developed by a man that was a hard taskmaster. And Eric Harrison was exactly the same. And I think that's what they need. They need people of that sort of ilk, whether that's within the club or people that are actually going doing it in the real football pyramid. They need that sort of finishing school. And I think it's an excellent way to prepare a player to be at the top level. You know, you do up to under 18s, you play in the FA Youth Cup, you go and do your season almost like a box ticking exercise on loan somewhere, and you come back ready to play first team football. Now, yes, phenoms happen, and yes, some players' development is ahead of others, but wouldn't it be better to just have a formalized structure where you know, hey, don't worry about this kid, he'll be ready in a couple of years, you can have him in a couple of years, and just get them ready? Because being around the first team at 18, if you're not playing, isn't really developing you. You need to go and play men's football. And between 17 and 20, you need to probably try and get somewhere in the region of 100 first team games in. And I really don't think it matters the level as much as it's playing against men who are playing for a living rather than playing against kids who, you know, are playing for the next stage in their academy career. I think there's such a mentality shift difference, and I think you need that to be ready to play men's football. There's no coincidence now that you're seeing so many players that are starting out either non-league or at so-called lesser clubs, and they're having an impact at the top level because, look at Jude Bellingham, for example. They're having an impact because they're getting men's football sooner, whereas academies can hoard tons and tons of players. How do you stand out? You stand out by developing an edge. You develop an edge by playing against men. That's it. So I would like to see United really develop a robust loan system and partner club system where we're sending people out to places that we trust, not just willy-nilly to anyone who needed a new left back. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in what we're up to now. I guess it's going to be part 6 where I'm going to look at some tactical innovation and performance analysis. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.